Hi, I'm Chris with Coreworks Pilates Fitness in Columbia, Maryland. And today we're going to be working with movement through your spine and tapping into how you can create a little more range of movement through your hips and through your shoulders to create more suppleness in your spine. And so you can bring your Pilates practice a little bit further. We're going to start in a hands and knees position with a movement that you're most likely pretty familiar with. And as we go through the practice, we are going to be utilizing a large exercise ball. So go ahead and have that close by and bring yourself into a hands and knees position. So as you settle into this position, take a moment to spread your fingers and just kind of notice, how do you connect with the ground? Is there a little bit of sway in your low back? Are you rounded? Are you arching? Are your shoulders collapsed or are they lifted? And do you prefer to have your feet flat or your toes curled under? So noticing those components, soften your elbows a little bit so that the creases of your elbows face in, and grip the ground just a little bit with your fingertips. So this creates a nice foundation for your arms. There's softness in your elbows, which helps you to stay lifted from the front of your chest. Take your gaze slightly forward of your hands. Take a breath in, and as you exhale, round your spine, draw your chin in towards your chest. And I just want you to pause here and notice, is there a place in your back that you can feel is the highest point? And if so, can you change where that highest point is? How do you access that? You have to dig a little deeper into your abdominals. So there's a contraction through your abdominals and lengthening in the back. And as you breathe out, I want you to just slowly release that tension. Take your gaze slightly forward of your hands and pause. Go into it a second time. Press down through your hands, elbows soft. Exhale, round your back. Draw your gaze back towards your knees. And again, find the engagement through your abdominals. Find the length through your spine. How do your hips feel? Is there stretch here? Are you aware of tightness in the back of your legs or the outside of your legs? On your next inhale, come back into your neutral position. And we're going to do that 2 more times. Exhale as you round. Start to connect a little more with your breath. Notice what's highest. Inhale as you open. Come back into a neutral position. 1 more time. Exhale as you round. And inhale as you return to your neutral position. Now, change your movement. Let your belly drop toward the floor. Let your tailbone lift toward the ceiling. Take your gaze along the floor and start to look toward the wall in front of you. Maybe you look up. And in this direction, you're tightening the muscles that run the length of your spine. So what's the lowest point in the front of your body? Do you feel the stretch in the front and the tightness that runs through the muscles on either side of your spine? Slowly release that. Bring your gaze back down toward the floor, lengthening through your neck, letting your shoulders soften away from your ears. Do that again. Tip your tailbone to the ceiling, let your belly draw down, look out and up for a range of movement through your neck that's comfortable. Slowly releasing, coming back. And so again, same thing. Do you feel stretch here? Do you feel tug or tightness in the back of your legs, through your low back, or inside or outside of your hips? Go into that again. Your belly drops down, your tail and your head lift, and then back to neutral. And 1 more time. Find that draw down through your belly and lift of your tail and your head. On your next breath, come back into the center of those 2 extremes. And now you're moving back and forth between the 2. Exhale, round, contract your abdominals. Inhale, release. Exhale, you pause. Take another breath, open through your chest. Come back through your center, through your neutral. And just begin to move back and forth between the 2. And this is where you're going to play with what place in your spine is closest to the floor when you're in this arch and closest to the ceiling when you come into your round. A couple of things you can do to change this. Hand placement, slightly closer, slightly further away. Pressing through your hands, sending sitting bones a little bit wider behind you, but also utilizing, maybe I move that low place or that high place. That becomes my focus as I move through this. So as you get familiar with what's tight, just kind of notice how things are moving. Go 1 more time, back and forth between the 2. And then as you pause and you come back through the center, find that long neutral spine. Now we're moving through the sides of your waist. Before you go anywhere, can you tell if one side of your waist is a little more contracted than the other? So if you have an awareness, just kind of notice. The next piece to look at is find your bottom rib on the side of your waist and find the top of your hip bones, that bony part in the top, and then that bottom rib. So measure that space with your index finger and your thumb on one side and find it on your second side. And then just kind of compare. Are they the same distance? If there's one that the space is shorter, you're going to start on that side. So you're going to bring your armpit and your hip toward each other on your shorter side. And if you're not sure, just pick one side. On your inhale, return to your center and do that again. Hip and armpit slide toward each other. You're getting a little bit closer through those muscles in between the ribs. Slowly release as you return to neutral. One more time. And then bring yourself back. From here, go to your second side. See if the movement feels similar or if it's a little more challenging to find. Lengthen your spine as you inhale. Exhale as you round. So as you're rounding to one side, the other side is stretching. And finish up with this last one. And so when you finish, we're going to add a little bit of movement with your ball. So now, instead of having your hands on the floor, your ball gives you a little more range. You're going to walk your feet back, reach your arms forward, and lower your chest toward the floor. So finding first a little bit of shoulder stretch. Press actively down with straight arms. And now as you press down to your arms, see if you can bring your hips a little closer to your feet. So you'll notice your back rounds a little bit. And then release that reach through your spine. And you'll do that again. Press down through your arms, round your back, bring your hips closer to your feet. Inhale as you open, and do that one more time. Exhale as you round, and inhale as you open. And then this time, take your gaze forward of your hands, press down through your hands, lift and look up, let your tailbone lift, and then slowly release that tension. Take your gaze down, soften your hips. Let your sitting bones widen, let your tailbone lift, move into a little bit of a back bend through your back, press down through your arms and lift and look up. Release that tension back through your neutral position. And if this ends up being too much on your ankles or your knees, you can always come out and just kind of take a break and then go back to that position as you're ready. We'll do this one more time. Press through your arms, give me a little bit of squeeze through your shoulders, lift your tailbone, lift your gaze. Slowly let that tension go and release. Once you're finished that one, you're going to come forward to a hands and knees position with the ball underneath your stomach. So from here, it gives you a little bit of support. And you'll walk so that your hands can come down onto the floor. You can either walk your hands forward to create a straight line through your spine, or you can walk your feet back. So you'll notice the ball comes into different places. I like a little more support for my lower back because I tend to be a bit more in a back bend position. So taking your feet about hips distance, press down through your arms, your elbow creases face in, and your gaze moves right between your hands. Think about actively drawing your ribs and your hips toward each other. And on your exhale, hip bones press into the ball, lift one leg. Inhale as you lower, exhale, lift on your second side. Inhale, lower. So I'm working to keep my hips and my shoulders stable and not find a shift side to side. So as you feel comfortable with this, we're working a lot through those glutes, through those hamstrings, a little bit of core strength, but you've got the ball to help support your body. From here, if you want to challenge yourself a little bit further, as you lift one leg, your opposite arm lifts. Inhale as you lower down. And you'll find that same movement on your second side. If you can't quite organize it so that you can do an arm in the opposite leg, you could do one arm at a time and continue with one leg at a time. So we're going to work for about 4 more breaths right here. Exhaling, you lift. Inhale as you lower. And keep your body stable. Challenge how high you go without rotating. And maintain your neutral spine so that you're not shifting through your back like we did in your cat and cow. When you finish, bring your knees back to the floor. Press your ball forward, sit your hips back, and let your chest lower so you find a little bit of hip stretch here. The more you push down into your ball and the more you sit your hips back, the more stretch you'll feel. if you also actively draw your bottom ribs towards your hips. So you notice that little bit of back bend in my spine. If I draw my ribs down, it changes and I feel this a little higher into my shoulders. So you're gonna stay for one more inhale, and on your exhale, bring yourself up nice and tall. We're gonna come down onto your back next and use the ball underneath your legs. So once you're here, something I want you to think about, the wider your hands come, the more stable you're going to feel on your mat. The same thing is true with your legs. So if you take your feet a little wider, this gives you a little more control of that ball. If you bring your feet toward the center and take your feet together and go into a turnout, it's a little less support. So finding a position that you can be comfortable with without hyperextending your knees, you keep a little bit of softness. Hands wide will keep your shoulders nice and broad and stable. Hands close give you a little less stability. Take a breath in, and on your exhale, press your low back flat. Roll through your spine. Think about ribs staying tucked in so you're not in a back bend. Inhale at the top. Exhale as you roll back down and release yourself toward the floor. See if you can move through this and make that connection through your low back as you go. Breathe in at the bottom. You decide, pressing or not through your arms. Press and peel your low back, your middle back away from the floor, staying organized on your shoulders. Inhale. Exhale, roll back down. Keep your chest open. Try not to let those shoulders pop forward as you go. We're going to do this twice more. So moving, finding that stability, seeing if you're comfortable with that external rotation or if you need to stay with a more parallel leg. And if this is challenging enough, I want you to stay right here with this movement, lifting and lowering. If you want a slightly more challenging variation, you're going to lift and stay lifted. Be careful not to let your low back arch. So think of a circle. One circle that draws your bottom ribs down, and then a circle in the other direction that drops your hip bones down toward the floor. So keeping that length, you might just hold this like you would a plank. If you want a little more challenge, on your exhale, one leg lifts, inhale, you lower. So on this one, I'm using my arms to help me stay stable, and I'm really working on keeping my low back nice and long. Try not to let your hips drop. Exhaling as you lift, inhale as you lower, or continue rolling through your spine, or hold this just like you would a plank. Finish up the one that you're working on. Take a breath in, and on your exhale, roll your hips back down. As you finish, bend your knees, release some of that tension that you've created in your low back, and press your back flat. As you straighten your legs, just take a breath in, exhale, low back flat. Inhale as you release, and you'll do that one more time. When you finish this one, we're going to change the movement, and we're still using your ball. So from here, you're placing the ball toward the ceiling, and we're working through our shoulders and upper body stability. Check to make sure you're not arching and you're not pressing your low back flat. So you're in the middle with a neutral pelvis. Your bottom ribs, so at the bottom of your rib cage. If you're lifted, I want you to use your abdominals to pull that bottom rib on both sides of your body down. Hold lightly on the outside of your ball, and on your exhale, reach your arms toward the floor behind you. Inhale as you come back toward your starting position. For some of us, if our shoulders are not tight, this is not going to be terribly challenging. But if shoulders are tight, to maintain that neutral alignment and to reach back makes it a bit more challenging. If you want a little more, I want you to press into the ball. When you press, you'll feel the muscles of your arms begin to engage. And as you lower, when you come down behind you, also press down. Slowly release the tension as you come back. Press into your ball. Exhale, lower. Press the ball toward the floor. Keep your neck long and relaxed. Inhale, return, and release. We're going to do that 2 more times. And what you'll notice is anytime you press into something that's round, it creates a little instability. I want you to get familiar with that little bit of rebound that your body has to adjust to, because as you use the ball to press, you'll find different muscles begin to fire. So we're going to change the movement here. Straighten your legs toward the ceiling as straight as you can go. and your arms are going to come up on top. And again, we want to keep a neutral pelvis. So if you have that tendency to arch, or if you're pressing your back flat, think about your hip bones in the front of your body, and you want them to be level. There should be no strain in your low back. If your legs are tight, you can have a bent knee, and if you have enough space, you can actually do it with your legs staying completely bent and arms and legs bent. So here's the first variation. You press into your arms and your legs, and you can reach one arm and the opposite leg away. So you're going to go on alternation. If your arms and legs are straight, the movement's the same. It's just a little bigger reach. So on your exhale, you lower as far as you can go without losing your neutral. Inhale, come back. Exhale as you lower, reach long with your leg, stay connected to the floor with your pelvis. The more you press your arm and leg into the ball, the more instability you create, and the more you have to stabilize through your core. So we're going to move through this. 5 more. Take breaks when you need it. Stay connected through your breath. 4 more on each side. Last 3. Notice if as you get tired, you need to change your range of movement. Last 2. And you're going to go one more time in each direction. So when you finish that one, you're going to take the ball out from in front of you, and we're going to place it underneath those legs again. So this time, instead of a straight leg, you're going to bend your knees and place the ball underneath your calves. Feet are going to stay about hips distance here. In this position, you're pressing down through your calves, and you want to work to find a little bit of engagement through your hamstrings. Try not to let those knees and toes turn out. They stay up toward the ceiling. And same idea with your arms. So wider hands will keep you a little more stable. Closer hands make this a bit more challenging. Breathe in. Exhale, press your back flat. You're going to roll as you lift up. Inhale at the top. Exhale as you roll and come back down. So what's different about this versus the bent leg position? Basically, what we're working with here is targeting the muscles in the back of your leg. The first one worked a little more through stability through your core. So you're finding that engagement. Exhale as you press and peel and lift up. Now on this variation, I've moved the ball under my heels. This is a little easier. If it feels too easy, moving the ball here so that you don't have the support under your calves makes it a bit more challenging to control the ball. Exhaling as you lift, going as high as you're comfortable with, keeping those shoulders planted. Inhale as you lower. We'll move through 4 more here, rolling through your spine. Think about those places when you were doing your cat and cow in the beginning that were a little sticky, and I want you to go really slow through those places so that you can control. Notice also if there's tightness at the hips. Think about lengthening your low back, reaching your tailbone into the space between your knees. And we're going to do 2 more right here. So think about keeping your neck long, your gaze stays toward the ceiling. And last one. When you finish this one, we'll take a quick break. You're going to let that ball go underneath one leg. The other leg comes in towards your chest. Hands pull that knee in nice and close. Press down active through your non-stretching leg and reach the stretching leg toward the ceiling. On your inhale, bend. Try not to let the upper leg move away from your chest. Exhale as you straighten. Inhale as you bend. Keep your upper body relaxed. And you're just looking to create a little bit of a pin and stretch and let it go. Give me 1 more and let it go. When you finish, place that foot on your ball. Press down with the straight leg. That's going to give you a little bit of hip stretch. Your other leg comes in toward your chest. Pressing through your right heel. Exhale, straighten your left. Inhale, fold that leg back in. We'll do 3 more here. Last 2. And last one. So when you finish that last one, we're going back to the same movement, and I've got a variation for you. If this one was enough with your legs bent and your feet, or your calves rather, staying on the ball, you're gonna stay with that variation. If this one was enough with your knees bent and your feet on the ball, you're gonna stay with that variation. And so it's exhale, lift, inhale, lower. A slightly more challenging would be exhale, lift, inhale, pause, exhale, lower, inhale, pause. So you can choose one of those, or here's our next movement. And remember, think about this idea of a circle. So the circle draws your bottom rib down toward the floor, and the opposite direction draws your hips down but your pubic bone up. There's neutral. So here's a little bit of a back bend, but we want to keep your back in a neutral position. And also move through your spine. So it's an inhale to prepare. Exhale, press your back, peel through your spine, pause at the top. Take a breath in, make sure ribs are in, and you've got that length in your low back. So if you want a little more, you're gonna straighten your legs and bend your knees. So we'll work here for 4 and 3. Try to keep your feet parallel. Try not to turn out. 2. And again, you can press through those arms or not. Last one. And then take another inhale, and on your exhale, roll through your spine. Come on down, reach those legs nice and long. Take the ball out from underneath, and you're gonna place the ball on top of your legs. So how do you find this position? Well, you can bring yourself up against a wall to give yourself another, like a tripod, something else to reach against. Or you can simply take the ball between your feet and you start to shimmy those feet a little bit closer. Wider feet are going to make this easier to balance with. And you have to flex your feet. So if you're pointed, that ball is going to fall off. Look for a neutral alignment and just let your hands rest beside you. So it's a little more active hamstring engagement. Helps with movement through those ankles. It also helps give you some feedback about what's happening through your Achilles, through your calves, your gastroc, the soleus, all of those muscles that tend to stay pretty tight in our lower legs. Stay for one more inhale, and then we're gonna let this ball go and we're gonna catch it. So working through inner thighs. On your inhale, release the ball toward your face, let your legs open, and then either place the ball between your legs, squeeze, or catch it. So squeeze as you come in, maintain neutral through your pelvis. Inhale as you release. Exhale as you catch, inhale as you release. So you pick either placing and squeeze and let it go, opening as wide as you're able, active stretch, or add the toss. So the toss just gives us a little instability. And you're gonna work for 4 more breaths. Last 2. And last one right here. When you finish this last one, let your hands rest. You decide how much squeeze through those legs. So remember, the squeeze creates instability on that ball. It also fires a little more inner thigh and the muscles all the way around the legs. If you think also of bringing your heels closer and letting your toes turn out, it's gonna fire up that external chain and through your glutes a little more. So take a breath in. On your exhale, lower your feet as low as you can go without losing neutral through your pelvis. Inhale, come back to your starting position. You can have a soft knee, so it's an exhale to lower. Inhale, you come back. And the ball provides a little bit of weight. So you might notice you don't go quite as low as you normally do in your double leg lower. So really work to keep those hips level, challenge yourself. And you're gonna do 4 more right here. Last 3, last 2, go 1 more time, and then when you finish this one, we're going to take that ball back 1 more time, bringing it down either to your shins or to your knees with a bent leg. You pick. So from here, palms can face in to each other or into the ball. Reach one arm the opposite leg away, whether your leg is bent or straight. Inhale, return. Exhale as you release. Inhale, bring it back. Go 1 more time on each side, and we change this movement again. So as you finish, bend your knees, place your feet down. Your ball now goes onto your stomach, and you're gonna find that neutral alignment through your pelvis. think about keeping about a grapefruit or softball size ball between your chin and chest so that you don't over contract in the front. You're going to keep a little bit of space. The further away your feet go, the easier it is to come up. The closer you bring your feet, the harder it is to lift your upper body. So think about that alignment. Take a breath in, and on your exhale, lift your chest toward the ceiling, roll the ball up to the top of your knees. Inhale as you lower your upper body down. Exhale as you lift, articulating through your spine. Inhale as you release back down. And we're going to do that 3 more times. Exhale to lift, inhale to lower. Now, if this feels like enough, you're going to stay with this movement. But if you want to take this a little bit deeper, from here that ball is going to go up and over the top of your knees. It's an inhale to prepare, and an exhale as you lift up and roll over the top of those shins. Take a breath in. On the way down, I want you to go super slow. So I'm just using one finger to hold on to this, and I'm trying to place my back 1 vertebra at a time through my spine. So this is where, remember in the beginning, and we did that cow where you round it, or cat, where you rounded your back and you contracted your abdominals. That awareness, that contraction from the hands and knees helps you find that articulation as you come down. So you're playing with this here, again, either just to the top of your knees or you're going up and over. Take a breath in, exhale, lift your chest, round, bring yourself forward, inhale up tall, exhale, tuck. Roll through your spine, really access those abdominal muscles and go slow. If you want a little more, arms overhead, keep a neutral alignment through your shoulders, press down and in with your arms. Inhale as you come back. Exhale to the top of your knees or up and over. Inhale, exhale, roll down slow with control. So you decide if you're adding your arms up and over, if you press with those arms and down and in, and then you return. Breathe in. Exhale as you come up. Inhale to the top of your knees. Exhale as you roll. Nice and slow. Last one. And on this last one, we're going to stay in a seated position. So from your seated position, move into a straddle split, opening your legs only as far as you're comfortable with. Once you come into this position, if you notice, toes turn out or in, give me a little bit of softness through your knees. So bending your knees can help you find a little more control over your range of movement. And ideally, your sitting bones at the bottom of your pelvis stay nicely grounded. So if you feel a little bit of a shift through your hips, maybe bring your feet in a little bit closer. Or if you want to challenge yourself, those feet can go wider. But part of the deal with this position is, can you control that quad? So how do you tell? Well, in this position, without shifting your hip, give yourself a test. Can you lift this leg away from the floor without shifting your weight? So if that's true, that's a range of movement that you have control over. Check your second side, same thing. And you can use the ball to help stabilize. So if you can press and lift that leg and lower down a little slowly, you've got control. If not, bring your feet a little closer and do your check again. If you feel like you've got more range, take your legs wider. So start first, arms in front, take a breath in, draw your bottom ribs in and up as you round and reach your upper body forward. And inhale as you restack your spine, come on up nice and tall. And you're gonna move through that a couple of times. Exhale as you round and reach forward. Inhale as you restack and find length. 2 more, round and reach. If you press down through the ball, you're gonna get a little more contraction through your abs, through your arms, and those serratus that pull your shoulder blade in. 1 more time, round and reach. Maybe your arms press down. Inhale as you come back up. Now, hands go on the outside, and we're going to move through a little bit of a side stretch. Your job is to keep those sitting bones at the bottom of your pelvis nicely grounded. Take a breath in, and without shifting, you're going to bring one arm up and over, look under that arm toward your other foot. Inhale as you bring yourself back up through the center. Exhale, your arm goes up and over, look underneath, rotate. If your hips have shifted, get your weight even. Inhale, bring yourself back. And so you're going to continue side to side here. Find your rotation, bring yourself back. Find your rotation. If you want a little more, you're going to lift those arms up and press through your ball. Inhale as you return. So deciding if you want to create the twist, the lift, and the press, or if that ball stays on the floor. And if you're twisting, you're just creating a little bit of resistance through your arms, a little more range of movement through your shoulders. And you're going to come one more time back through your center. So from here, last time, arms in front, keep your back straight this time. Hinge forward, press down through your arms, and find that length. As you press down through your heels, actively draw your toes towards your knees. Draw your knees towards your hips, and try to keep those toes up, those knees up, rather than rolling in or out. So as you keep your straight back, as you press with your arms, maybe your belly starts to get a little closer to the floor. And maybe you can glide your shoulder blades away from your ears. You'll stay for one more inhale and then soften through your arms and roll yourself back up to your seated position. Once you're there, bring your legs in front of you, and same idea. You're going to place that ball right on top and reach away with your arms. Maybe point through your toes, round and reach your spine forward. On your inhale, come back, flex those feet, give a little press of your ball into your feet. And as you're pressing, so toes are pushing in, the ball is pushing away, you're creating a little bit of activation through your ankles. So you're keeping the pressure, point and flex, and do that one more time. Point and flex. Now when you finish, if you think about, our ankles have a lot of range of movement. We're going to play around with all those different ranges of movement. So we just went front and back. If you rotate, you're going to get more through the outside and the inside. So you can rotate the little toes away. You can rotate the big toes in and away. And so we'll move through those ranges of movement here. Press into your ball, start to point your toes, and rotate so that your big toe is coming in, your little toe is pressing away, and you give a little bit of tension and let it go. Point your toes, big toes in, little toes away. Press, push your feet back into the ball, let it go. One more time. Point, rotate, push with your hands, press with your feet, let that go. And now we change it. Point through your toes, and then rotate so the little toes pull toward the outside of your hip. Flex just a bit, push with your ball, let that tension go. Start with your point, the ball goes on top. And now begin to flex. Rotate little toes toward the outside of your hips, and then release that tension. Let it go. One more time. Press, flex, rotate, and release. So once you finish that one, we're going to come down onto your back one more time. But we're going to use the ball for a little bit of chest expansion first. So you're taking it behind you, and you're going to have a seat here. So once you come into your seated position, you're bringing your back onto the ball. You're going to walk your feet forward, and if you need a little support behind your head, you're going here. Once you're in this position, you look to see, is my chest open? Am I arching my low back? So you want to be in a placement that you have a little bit of grip from your mat so that you don't slide on a surface that's kind of slick. So once you come here, hands behind your head, if you want a little more into the front of your hips, you're going to straighten those legs out. And you might find, especially if hips or low back are tight, a slightly wider stance through your feet will help you access things more. A more narrow stance with a parallel foot will give you a little more challenge in that low back. And so as you start to open, I'm not just stretching through the front of my chest, I'm actually squeezing my elbows toward each other behind me. I'm contracting those muscles between my shoulders, and I'm also contracting the muscles that run the length of my spine. So I'm shortening in the back, just like we did in that cat and cow. So the arch when you were hands and knees. So you're contracting through your back, and then you slowly release. Tuck your chin just a little bit, and then press. Straighten your legs, elbows squeeze, move into your back bend, and then release. Tuck your chin, come into a more neutral position, and one more time. Open through your chest. Maybe you press down through your legs, and then tuck as you come back. And then from here, go ahead and lower your hips down onto the floor. Lift yourself up. Move that ball off to your side and come down onto your back. Once you're on your back, take a moment to just kind of see, where is my spine? So are you arched? Are you more flat? Are you in the middle in that neutral position? And so we're just going to do a few things to help stabilize, especially if your movement created a little bit of imbalance. So we want to stabilize the front, the back, and the sides of your waist. And it will look very similar to how we began the class, but you're using feedback from the floor. So take a breath in, and as you exhale, press your low back flat. Notice if your shoulders pop forward. So if they do, press your shoulders down. Slowly let that tension go and let yourself come back to your natural resting place. Do that again. Press your low back flat, draw your shoulders back. Maybe rotate your arms open and press down for your arms and slowly let that go. Now move into the opposite position. So this is cow, and then this one is, I lied. This is cat, so it's the rounding of your back. Here's cow. You arch your back. So that means my waist is lifting. I'm creating a little bit of a back bend in my low back. I feel the muscles on either side of my spine tighten behind me. And then I slowly let that tension go. And so you're going to do that a few times. Arch your back. Maybe shoulder blades pull towards your tailbone. Slowly release that tension and rest. And you'll do it one more time. Find your arch. Slowly let that tension go and relax. Now we're moving through the sides of your waist. So if you remember, was there a side in the beginning where you could feel the top of your hip, right? That bony part and the bottom of your rib. Check your right to left. If one side, and compare it to your beginning. If one side's still a little tighter or if it's different, that's the side you start with. So you side bend. You kind of reach your hand along the floor, hike your hip up towards your armpit, slowly release, let yourself rest. And then do it again. Shorten your waist. Slowly let it go, and move into it one more time. Shorten your waist, slowly let it go, and rest. Move over to your second side, shorten your waist, find the contraction. There's a displacement of your hips. Your legs probably shift, and you'll release that tension. Do that twice more. Shorten your waist, slowly release, and rest. And one more time. Shorten your waist, slowly release, and let yourself rest. One last piece. Take a breath in. Exhale, press your low back flat. So we're just creating as much length as you can through your back. There's a little bit of engagement through your abdominals, a little bit through those hips. See if you can keep that engagement for just another second, and then slowly release that tension. Come back to your natural resting place. We're going to come up to a seated position to begin. So you can either bring your knees into your chest, roll off to a side before coming up to seated, or you can bring your knees into your chest. Hands either go behind your thighs or towards your ankles. So take a moment, just kind of rocking side to side here. And then this is where you can either roll off to your side or you can rock. So if you're going to rock, tuck your chin into your chest. And this is a testament to the work that we've done. So if there's any kind of bumpy places, you know there's still some work to do through your spine. Use a little momentum. Give me 3 rocks through your spine. Let yourself roll front to back. Usually in our low back there's a little bit of bumpiness that we could iron out. And so on that last one, again, bring yourself up nice and tall and take a moment. You can stay sitting. You can come up to see how things are feeling, maybe walk around to reintegrate some of the work that we did. But that's all I have for you for your practice today. So check out more of our classes, coreworksfitness.com, and on our YouTube channel. We have live classes that are being streamlined that you can hop into Zoom, and we've got a video archive on that YouTube channel. Hope to see you in class.